All right, today for our Sun Tzu for sales, we're going to talk about preparation. So, if you've done any research, which I highly recommend, go to any of the Sun Tzu channels. There's thousands of them out there, and they'll run you through all of the different statements of Sun Tzu and different quotes and things. One thing I run across as I review those channels is a lot of those quotes are not from Sun Tzu. I just heard one where it said, if your friend knows more about you than your enemy, then you should not hang out with that friend. That's not from Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu did not say things like hang out. So, measure it, take it with a grain of salt, take in the advice judiciously, I would say, and test everything. But as you're going through this, what you're going to see is there's one consistent theme throughout all of Sun Tzu's quotes and instruction. There's one theme that runs throughout it, and that's this one word: preparation. Okay? I heard someone say once, if you're not preparing to succeed, you're preparing to fail. Another way to say that, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. That's another way of saying the same thing. So what it really points to is, in sales, if you're not trying to improve, then you're preparing to fail. And then there's a second level that I would say, that if you're not preparing well, you're planning for slow success at best, because you can, it's kind of like people say all work has the same value. This is demonstrably false, but let's just take something that's easy to demonstrate. You can pack sand, like literally pack sand into bags. Has almost no value, but it's hard. It's really hard. You could dig holes in East Texas clay. It's one of the hardest things I've ever physically done. I've done a lot of physical labor in my life. That's one of the hardest physical things I've ever done. But it has almost no value. It's minimum wage work. So my point here is, you compare that work to someone who's prepared in a career, say sales management. They've gone to college, they've gotten a degree, and they're on a career track for sales management. That job is worth a lot more. A doctor is worth a lot more. Their hour of time affects the community far more than me digging a hole in the ground. Okay? So preparation has an analog to that. So your preparation, how you're preparing, what you're preparing, is everything. It's everything. I saw a Reddit post where a guy was complaining. He's like, who wants to commiserate with me on my recent horrible video call? Technically everything went wrong, and I get that, and that sucks. It really does. But you can't think of all the effort it took to put that Reddit post up. You had to still be thinking about everything that went wrong, technically, that you could not control. And then your next action in your mind that you're taking is to complain about it. None of that's going to do any good. Maybe some people need to externally process, and I get that. If you need that, that's great. Treat it kind of like, I heard, I think McCarthy for the Cowboys, the coach for the Cowboys, they won a big game. He said, hey, take a day, enjoy it, and then let's get back to work. It's kind of the same way with defeats. Get it all out of your system and then get back to work. Get to work on your fundamentals. Look at in that call. All of us have had calls like that. So think about the last one of yours that went that way, and dig in. What can you control? What could you have done better? What did you do well? And what can you build on? Okay. So I want to talk about that preparation and talk about 3 levels of it. If you're not preparing at all, if you're just coasting through, and really in the back of your mind, you can't wait to get back on your couch and watch some show or play video games or whatever it is that's in the back of your mind. If driving towards success is not in your mind, then you're preparing to fail, and you absolutely will fail. Now, if you're preparing a little bit, and I would define this in a couple of ways. One is just doing the basics. You're doing the training they're telling you to do. Whatever they require you to do, you're doing, and that's it. Or you're preparing with no real strategy in mind. In other words, you have no overall goal. When you open your notebook And if you don't have a notebook where you're writing things down, or a place in your computer where you're keeping notes of what's going on, or you're recording your calls, do that today. That's number one. You start doing that today. But if in doing this, you don't have an overall strategy, an overall method to improving, then this is like what Sun Tzu says, that strategy without tactics is the slowest route to success. Okay. And it's kind of similar to tactics without strategy, which Sun Tzu says tactics without strategy is noise before defeat. And that's because you do a whole lot of stuff. You stir up a whole lot of dust, and you're trying. In your mind, you're trying. So you would tell people, you would say to your fellow compatriots, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm missing. I'm doing all the things. Well, you need to go to somebody who's up the hill from you. That's where a mentor comes in. So you go to somebody who's doing well, and you talk to them. What are they doing? One of the most successful sales organizations I was ever in, they constantly poured in from the top what was going on that was successful. So we would have group calls, and the people who had done really well the last month would say, here's what I'm doing well. Hey, what can you do better? Here's what I could do better. Every week we would review who knocked it out of the park. It might be somebody who had been stinking the joint up, but they might have been top salesperson last week, in the last week. And so they get to talk. Hey, what's different? What do you feel is different? And that person pours in from the top down, and all that trickles down. And so you can mirror that yourself. The organization does not have to do that. Call up your salespeople that are knocking it out of the park and go, hey, what am I missing? Review that with them. Review your calls with them. Okay. That's when you're kind of at the 101 level, the entry level of truly preparing well. Now, the top of that level would look like this. Every day, you've got a list of maybe observations you've made, with the intent of pulling one thing out every single day. You want to pull one thing out. This is what I'm going to concentrate on improving today. This is what I'm going to improve today. Maybe it's for the whole week. If it's big enough, it's for the whole week. But then you're going to break out little facets of that thing. Okay. Maybe it's closing, and maybe you fear the close. And so you find yourself in the call tensing up emotionally. I talk on my other channel, the sales process, about you need to mark the times that your emotions get involved in the call. Fear, anger, frustration, worry, all these things, any anxiety that comes up, just mark it down. Minute 39, I got a real serious bout of anxiety there. And then start digging into why. Sales and the sales process is as much about your psychology as it is your prospects and your customers. Okay. So when you're planning well, you're digging into this entire process. So planning and preparing well, remember our first question, what are you preparing for? If you're not constantly preparing, if I ask you, what is the last preparation step you took, and you can't tell me both when you took it, why you took it, and your overall strategic goal with that step, you're not preparing deeply enough. Okay. And again, going back to Sun Tzu, everything that he talks about is about preparation. Whether it's one of the 5 laws, whether it's any one of the steps within those laws, it's all about preparation. There's nothing in Sun Tzu's material that ever assumes that you can succeed without preparation. So preparation is the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 for the successful salesperson. Hope that helps.